Hey, so I'm enjoying DeepSeek, and it is a really good little model. I want to talk about the cost a little bit, though. As you can see here, this is from the 24th, so this was yesterday. The different providers charge differently. So like DeepSeek itself, less than a penny. Fireworks, together, fireworks, yeah. So let's take a look at this. And that doesn't really tell us much, but let me show you what it actually looks like. So, and this is an outline that I made with it, and then also went through and made the prose for the final chapter. And it's a sci-fi, no romance, 30 chapters, just playing around with it, testing it out. I really love that it shows the reasoning. That's something that I'm really excited for with this model. That was this. I'm going to go ahead and Control Enter so that we can actually look at it. And then also, it's still doing its thing, but we haven't had it finished yet. And it's just continuing on. Just doing its thing. While it's finishing, let me show you previous messages. I'm also going to link the other video where we actually built all of this. I just wanted to show you more about the actual cost and have the cost be its own video because I don't want you getting surprises. So as you can see, it's generating a ton right now, which is fantastic. I do have it turned all the way up, and by all the way up, I mean I went in here. This is just Open Router. This is on any of the AIs that you can use. I always max out my tokens. I always max out my chat memory. That way it has enough to really give me what I need as far as I can get a big response and I can put a lot into it. And then also my chat memory so that it remembers different messages. Alright, so we've got all of that. Okay, I'm going to copy down all of this, and then I'm going to show you what it actually costs to get all of this, and also I'm going to actually show you the pros too. Okay, but let's take a look and see what that message actually cost us. 8 cents from fireworks. Now, considering that this, okay, so this is more tokens in, yes, and it's more tokens out, yes, but is it this much of a difference? It's really not. So that's what I mean. I don't want you to get surprised by what DeepSeek actually costs. And if you are really familiar with Open Router, if you know a way to have it only go through DeepSeek and to avoid Firework and Together, let me know. Because this, when you're used to this, can surprise you. I mean, this is like the cost of Mistral Large here. And that's, you know, if you're going from this to this, I don't want you running out of money and figuring that something's broken, because it's not. This is what it does. It's pulling from pretty much the best provider. The one that's most successful at the time is what I figure. But I don't want you getting surprises if you're used to this, and then all of a sudden you're getting a low balance alert. But let me show you what DeepSeek actually looks like. Go back up to, so this was the end of the other message, so here's its reasoning. And we touched on more on this in the other video that I'm going to link, of course, but this one I really wanted to show you the cost and how not to be surprised and what's going on with it, but I want to show you the pros. I want to show you what DeepSeek actually does. There's a way to do not safe for work. I'm going to show that on the Not Safe for Work Patreon. This is not that. This is YouTube. We are going to be nice and restrained on YouTube. So this is just the AI talking to itself. Remember, I asked for a chapter 1, but it's chapter 1 of an established outline, so there is that. It does have some context. Like, as a first chapter, this line, I like this line. That is a nice line. I mean, this plus the previous chapter, and I'm kind of like, okay, maybe we continue this book. This book has a lot going for it. Hopefully I'm going slow enough so that you can read if you want to. I'm also going to show you it generating chapter 2 so that we can see if there's any difference in the price. Alright, so that was a fun little chapter. I'm going to go back here. It's going to take a little bit. We're going to let it. Nope. I'm going to go down, all the way down here. And what I'm doing right now is comparing this to whatever we get in the next one. Because these are a lot of tokens in, a lot of tokens out, and we've been doing quite a bit. So while that's finishing, let me just recap you. So, hey, I want an outline, 30 chapters for a sci-fi novel, please. Okay, it gave the outline. Could you show me chapter 30 just to give me an idea? Was my next prompt. It gave me fragments. So I said, can you streamline it into one chapter? I said, you can ask me questions for clarification too if you need to. I was meaning that the chapter itself isn't a complete chapter, it's fragments of a chapter. Can you give me an actual chapter? Like 2,000 words of it. And then I asked, what are your thoughts on the novel? Gave me another chapter. And I said, do you think this will be a good book? I like a lot of the themes, I just want to know your thoughts about it. And then it gave me its observations and the areas to polish. Can you give me an updated outline addressing those weaknesses? Give me a new outline. It's pretty much the same, but it's got a little bit of a tighter structure. I asked, can you give me chapter 1, the whole prose, just like you did for the final chapter? That's this video. And then can I get chapter 2? Chapter 2 is still continuing on. Once we have chapter 2 and we can compare that cost to chapter 1, that'll be the end of this video. But I don't want to turn you away from DeepSeek because I'm liking the prose. I think it's coming up with a really interesting story that I want to see where it goes, and I want to see if it can stay on topic. But the cost differences are surprising. And that's the big thing that I wanted to cover in this video. Alright, so I'm just going to copy all of this. And I would just use that little copy button, but it only copies the message that's currently, do you see? It only copies this thing. That's not a message. That's just nothingness. Alright, so we have currently 5,900. Of course, a lot of it is like this back-talking stuff and all of this, and then the reasoning. That's interesting. Migraine should be an easy to spell thing. Calmed is correct. Tetherhook is correct. Alright, let's look at the cost. So it went with fireworks again. Making this video, what I've done so far in it, that was no, that was the 23rd, never mind. So far, 18 cents for 2 chapters. Now, the prose, I like the prose. I like the story, I like where it's going. But if you can't control this and make it more like this, when I'm not asking for that much more here, it might be an issue. Let's do one more and see if it continues with fireworks. It doesn't take that long, so let's do... Okay, it's telling me that it's DeepSeek. Okay. And it's fireworks again. So let me grab my calculator, just to get an idea. So the original video, where we did chapter 30, the 2 outlines, and the kind of the world building a little bit, was 16 cents. And then we've done .08, .1, So up to 34 cents. So I want to see what chapter 3 turns out to be as far as cost-wise, so that we can figure out what we would be looking for as far as a 30 chapter novel. So I expect it to be more than chapter 1 and chapter 2 just because it's more tokens in. And it's still not going to be insane. I mean, it's not like you're spending $30 on the novel, which, Sonnet, that 30K in 2 hours, that cute little shifter story with Poppy, that ended up being a little over $13. And just for the prose. It was another 15, or it was 15 total with the edits. And that was like asking the AI beta reader questions. So, keep that in mind. It's still going to be cheaper than Sonnet, but I do want to see what it looks like here. Okay, so now we're back to 8 cents. So, with that in mind, because we're putting in about the same amount of tokens, we're getting stuff back. If you assume that each chapter is going to be about 2K, we're looking at just over $4 for an entire novel done with DeepSeek if it keeps giving you fireworks as the provider. Let me share some of the pros. I'm going to make sure that we get some of this on this video just so that you can kind of see it and compare it to what Sonnet has. I do like the pros more. I do. I don't love how it converses as much as, say, Sonnet, where it, with the fragments, it was really annoying. But now that it seems to understand that I'm not looking for fragments, I'm looking for the entire chapter prose, there's still going to be some cleanup. It's giving a lot of extra, which is fine. Actually, let's try something. Give me chapter 4 without showing your reasoning, or the, what do you call it? Purpose. Just the prose for the novel. Let me see. Can you do that? Is it capable of understanding what I mean? And if it is, how does that impact? Okay, so it can, but that's okay. It's still interesting to see it. But maybe it won't give, the purpose of the chapter. Okay. So the reasoning is still there that we can see, but it's not in what it's actually giving me. As you can always go back up here and click on that to see what it's actually thinking about, which is, it's still interesting. So this prompt to get just the chapter is, can you give me chapter 4 without showing your reasoning or the purpose of the chapter? just the prose from the novel. Is it actually going to do it though? I mean, look at the prose though. The prose is so nice. It looks fun. I don't know why things are just bold for no reason, but that's okay. Copy that. So let's take a look. So the actual prose, 73. Bring that down. So about 700 words. That's not going to work for us. But let's take a look at the actual cost. Okay, so now we're using together, which is 7 cents. So it's not going up like I anticipated. Like with Sonnet, you can see a gradual increase where you eventually get to like 35 cents per chapter. It's not doing that, which is nice. It's staying, 4 cents to 10 cents so far is what I've seen. 10 cents being the most, of course. So is it worth it? The prose is nice. The prose is definitely there. It's still going to need expanded. I'm not having 700 word chapters. But can you expand it with something that has better cost control like haiku? Absolutely. You easily could. Let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to take this and go here and go new room. I'm going to remove DeepSeek. I'm going to add, let's just add haiku. Haiku is cheap. It's easy. So the prompt is, I have a chapter that I want you to add more details to without being flowery. There's the chapter. And it's saying, your chapter is already really good. However, I can suggest a few specific areas. Would you like me to draft specific insertions? Please revise the chapter as a whole and provide me with the new chapter. And I didn't do the thing that I always do, which is maxing out the tokens. Not that it matters too much, but that's something that I need to be doing. So this was 707. I'm going to get rid of 700 words so that I can grab 7364. We got 400 more words. And see? So you can have it expand. You can have the good dialogue, the good narrative, the good prose of DeepSeek, and then just have Anthropic add a little bit. So let's look at this. Is this, like, did we ruin it by doing that? Definitely not as tight, but we're getting more words. Let me see here. I'm asking it, which version do you prefer, yours or the previous? Okay. Can you bridge the two styles to create something more words and keep the original magic, as you called it? Okay. Go with your instinct. Haiku is saying that the instinct is about 15 to 20% more immersive detail without losing anything. I find it interesting that it called the DeepSeek chapter having magic. So I'm going to let this do its thing, but I'm also going to look at the cost. So as you can see, and it came from Amazon, but it also came from Anthropic. So working the two of them together, potentially a good way of cost savings over just Firework, and then, or just over DeepSeek and it using Firework, so that you can keep what you really love about DeepSeek, but get more enhancement through something cheap that is pretty steady and pretty reliable, like Haiku. I don't love Haiku for major prose. Like, a novel in Haiku would be fine, but it's not going to be as detailed, as rich as, say, using Sonnet, at least in my opinion. But do I like this approach? I think that this is a more balanced approach. Instead of telling DeepSeek, hey, I need more details, I need you to flesh this out more, because then we're looking at, 14 cents per chapter, or 20 cents per chapter, depending on if this continues to increase, versus this is, hey, I just want you to enhance this one chapter. You don't need to know anything about the story. You don't need to know anything about anything. And honestly, I would do a new room for each of these chapters, because Haiku doesn't have to keep track of anything. It's just adding details. It's just going through and being like, this could be expanded slightly. We could add more sensory details here. It doesn't need to know what's going on in the story. DeepSeek needs to know. Haiku is just there to help fill in some gaps. So if you were to approach writing a novel, or really anything long, with DeepSeek, like maybe you're going to do a series of novellas all set in the same world, all with the same character, pay attention to the cost. I don't want you getting surprised, and I don't want you running out of money when you shouldn't be, but pay attention to the cost, because it's not consistent. Like Anthropic is pretty consistent. Pay attention to, what you're actually prompting. Like, say, get rid of the reasoning. Get rid of, well, it won't get rid of the reasoning, but get rid of the, like, the why at the very end of the chapter, because that's just extra tokens that you don't need. Unless you like knowing that, but, I mean, for me, all I want is the prose. I can figure out why the chapter is needed, because it's in the outline, it makes sense for the story. And then from there, if you need to expand anything, plop it into a cheaper AI so that you can get those extra details without having to pay more. Because this, we can get a lot more from Haiku than we can from, just doing it from DeepSeek. The temptation is absolutely there to keep it with one AI, so that the one AI that you're using is completely familiar with everything. You've done everything with one model. It's all in one chat. Yes, but think of this part as just revising. You don't need to keep with the same AI when you're revising. Use whatever tools work for you, and then just go for it. Have fun. DeepSeek is really fun, and I want you to play with it. But this was more of a warning video and to show you kind of a way around the bigger cost while not fighting with it, just by prompting it with more specific prompts and using a very cheap model to fill in the gaps. So thank you for being here as always. I'm so glad that you're here. I hope you play with DeepSeek. I hope you are comfortable with OpenRouter, just because OpenRouter is a great way to try out different models and play with things. All I'm doing right here is just OpenRouter and Google Docs. And this is just Google Docs. Will I keep this book? I'm actually really liking it. I need to clean it up. This has a ton of extra stuff in it, including like emojis, which are cute, but they don't belong in the final book. And then I want to play with this some more so that I can get the expansion that I need, and then actually go from this and getting the expansion to having something that's actually really polished. So again, thank you for being here. Play with DeepSeek. Tell me if you like it. I'm enjoying it, but I wish the cost was more consistent. That's the only thing with it. The cost, and that it doesn't give full chapters. But more prompting, more playing with that. And again, we are going to go over not safe for work on it, but just, of course, not on YouTube. All right? Thank you.